Hi there, everybody. It's Kimberly Sheridan from Losing It with Kimberly. Good to be with you today. I am feeling pretty good. It's funny. There was one time in the middle of the night that I woke up, my normal wake-up time, and I thought, hey, maybe I will try a little bit of running tomorrow. Like maybe I'll do, not running, please, no, not running, jogging. Maybe I'll just try little spaces in between, like I'll do that whole, 4-minute walk, 1-minute jog or something like that, and do a little rotation, whatever numbers. I really wasn't thinking about the numbers at the point. But that was the middle of the night. Then in the morning, I woke up a couple of different times and ended up feeling tired when I was getting up after a full night's sleep. It wasn't going to help me to lay there anymore. But I'm not going to do any jogging today. I'm not up to it quite yet. And that's no problem, right? I'm on the decades-long plan of getting back into shape. I am not trying to hit any particular milestones like this before my 52nd birthday or, this before the summer or anything. No events that I'm looking forward to and trying to look svelte. I'm just taking it day by day, and I think most of the people in this program, joined because they also are taking it day by day, just trying to get better every day. That's about it. And to that point, I am getting better every day, and hopefully all of you are too. At this point for this month, I'm 11 days in, and my entire daily ritual chart is all red smiley faces. So of the 6 items that I have listed on my chart that I do every day, and you know them all, the standing for 8 hours, the treadmill for an hour, etc., etc. For the 6 columns, no, those are rows. For the 6 rows and then 11 columns, because there's been 11 days so far this month, I have all red smiley faces, right? Indicating that I've completed them all, and it's beautiful and it's perfect looking, and it does make me feel good. When I look at it, I'm like, that's awesome. However, I am not attached to that. It makes me feel good momentarily. I don't know that I've ever used the analogy here, but when I'm playing board games with friends, I'm really competitive I shouldn't say really, some people are psycho. I am competitive when I'm playing, still at a fun level, but I'm competitive, right? But even if I win, essentially, once the game is over, I forget who won, even if it was me, right? It's a really weird thing. So I'll be very competitive in the moment and then forget even 10 minutes later whether I won or not. So it's sort of the same with this daily ritual chart. Like I look at it, see all those red smiley faces, pat myself on the back, feel good about it. But I'm not really attached to it because I know the reality. For almost everybody, the reality is going to be we're not going to have a perfect month. Something's going to happen that we didn't anticipate, and we're going to miss a piece. Yesterday I got in my 8 hours of standing by 2:30 p.m., because I just had a straight run. I got up at 6:30 and I never sat down, did my morning stuff, came down to the treadmill, as you know that this time on the treadmill with you counts as part of my standing time, according to my rules, right? The guidelines that I've set up for myself. And I, just started working at my computer, standing at the standing desk, and anything I did in the kitchen, standing. And so by 2:30, I was done with my quote-unquote 8 hours. I didn't sit down at that point and think, well, I did sit down at that point because I hadn't eaten anything at that for some reason. I don't even know why, because I didn't have any different number of meals or anything the day before. I didn't have more caffeine. No idea, but that's fine. So I sat down at 2:30 to eat something, but I wasn't going to sit down the entire rest of the day. I don't remember what I ended up totaling, but I might have gotten 10 hours of standing yesterday. I do track it, I just don't remember. So, it does feel very accomplished, right? To get those things done, do your little smiley faces, but there's going to be days that doesn't happen. So, I encourage you to, I studied Buddhism for, just self-study for a number of years as part of my, personal growth journey. I've studied some Buddhism, and that's the whole thing, right? Non-attachment. So you can aspire to something, and you can even work diligently and consistently toward that goal, but you don't need to be attached to it as if there is some value judgment whether you achieve it or not, right? The journey is the thing, the pursuit is the thing, and that's pretty much, I never thought about it until yesterday, but that's pretty much what this whole program is about. It's about going for what you want, determining what you want, going for it, working toward it consistently with reasonably sized steps that that you can commit to doing 99.9% of the time. And just moving towards it. And the journey is the thing where you can't help but get closer to your goal, if you do that. And just to reiterate for anyone that's never caught it, when I say 99.999% of the time, I'm not meaning that mathematically, not that you're going to look at your daily ritual chart and try to achieve that level, but I just mean it in terms of not letting yourself off the hook unless you just really want to. I shouldn't even phrase it that way. Go back and listen to a couple of days ago, one day ago, I'm losing track now, when I talked about the free pass that I always have in my metaphorical back pocket. That's what I'm talking about. Like sometimes you just, you've done the right thing, you've done what you've committed to, you're feeling happy and proud of yourself, something happens and you can't do it, that's going to cause you not to have 100% or 99.999, right? No reason to feel shame about that or judgment about that, or beat yourself up about that. That is not productive. That only holds you back, right? And so on the converse side, maybe something fun happens. You can go back and listen to that episode, for more details. But maybe something fun happens and you want to do the fun thing. There's no problem with that either. This is a life that we're supposed to be enjoying and having fun in. So I really advocate removing from your own mind and removing people and or limiting your contact with people who, share negative feelings with you in terms of making you feel shame or criticized or judged. Whether you do it to yourself or whether you allow others to do it too. We only have this one life, and I think that once we get to this point, and, most people are in my age range who are part of this program. There's some younger people, but hopefully they can learn this lesson before I did. Once you get to this point in life, you say, well, I'm not wasting any more energy on those people. My goodness, what was I thinking, giving them any of my energy and my power, my attention? Why didn't I just eliminate those people and bring in the positive people? I've always had positive people in my life, but I've also, especially some of the closer relationships, have allowed negative people, or judgmental or saboteurs or, whatever. Just because I think, the bad part about it is because I think that all of that stuff comes from their own internal pain, and I felt compassion for the pain that was creating, that behavior in them, However, that's not served me well at all. So while I might, if I was a therapist, might have compassion for them as a client, it doesn't mean I need to be married to them or, be part of that family event, right, that is at their home. Let's put it that way. We'll leave it there. Anyway, in any case, whatever point of life you're at, really assess how you, allow negative negative statements, negative behaviors, negative judgments, criticisms, negative opinions, sabotaging, how you allow that in your life, whether it's coming from your own mind or whether it's coming from other people. Because if you do at some point move beyond allowing that into your life, you'll look back, and regret all the energy you wasted, So what we're doing here is focusing on the positive and what you can do, focusing on the belief that you can do it, encouraging you to do it, hopefully inspiring you to do it, because I'm on the path with you, and everybody listening, we're all in it together. We're all sort of saying, hey, we're taking charge. We're empowered to do in our lives what we want to do, and hopefully, this ends up spreading for you beyond your physical, right? Because when you feel empowered in one part of your life, it truly impacts the rest. I will say, and I'm surprised I've never mentioned this before, but when I am, working out on a regular basis and taking care of my body and feeling strong and feeling energetic, that spreads over into my work. I work so much better. I'm so much more empowered in my work. My thinking is so much more clear. I'm so much more motivated and focused, putting all my efforts toward one direction in order to achieve goals rather than scattering my focus. So I do think that the benefits of a healthy lifestyle spread to every aspect of your life. So I hope that you're experiencing that, right along with me. So the whole point being, don't attach to having a perfect daily ritual chart. But if you do have it, like I do, up to day 11 of your month or whatever day you're in, you can pat yourself on the back. You can be happy when you look at that chart and smile. Look at all those smiley faces on it. But don't get so attached that if you miss a day of one of your things or more than one of your things, that you then feel bad about it, because it's just not worth it. You focus all your effort, all your energy and attention onto the smiley faces that are there. I know not everybody uses smiley faces, but I do, and I like them. The other thing that has struck me that might have me changing my daily ritual chart and backing off of the 8 hours of standing and I'll say this, even if I back off of the 8 hours of standing, it's not that I'm going to back off of making improvements in what I want for me. Maybe in that case, I would add an extra hour of working at my treadmill desk, right? So I'm not really going to necessarily lose progress, but I might shift around how I'm doing things. And the reason for that is because I'm finding in the past, I'd say week or 2 weeks, that the kind of work that I am doing right now in my business, I'm finding hard to do standing up. I've been continuing to do the standing, but I almost feel like I am working at a slower rate and not getting things done that I need to get done. Like, my attention and my work is going towards pieces that I can do while standing and pushing off the pieces I can't do while I'm standing. When in fact, if I was looking at it clearly and said, okay, what's the most important thing to be doing now? It's the pieces that I can't do standing. And, it makes sense in some way. Some things it makes sense, like if I need to do something that is more delicate in movement on my mouse, right? Like, let's say designing a graphic or making some changes on my websites. It would make sense I couldn't do it on my treadmill desk. But the standing desk, what I'm finding the most challenge is thinking. Like, the things I want to work on right now are bigger picture and more strategic. And I'm finding that I'm having more difficulty thinking at my standing desk. And I don't know if it's because, just standing takes more mental energy than sitting, I don't know. I mean, perhaps, that very well could be the thing. The other thing could be that if I'm working at a desk, like a full desk, I can spread out papers. And part of strategy for me is, having different printouts of things and drawings and things, and sort of looking at all together in one vision. And my standing desk is one that goes up and down and just sits on top of your normal desk. So it's not a full width and full depth desktop. And so I really can't do that at my standing desk. And the alternative I use is the raised counter between my living room area and my kitchen area. And that's just a normal counter depth. So I can't really do it there very well, because imagine I want to spread like 6 to 8 different sheets of paper out to see all at the same time, right? And then at my desk, there, you could say, oh, well, you could have a bulletin board in front of your face. Well, currently I have artwork hung in front of my face, and the bulletin board is to my right. And so, I don't know, it just doesn't feel very natural. And the bulletin board can't hold 6 to 8 pieces anyway. It probably can hold like maybe 6. In any case, I'm finding that the standing desk goal of 8 hours a day might be sabotaging me doing my most effective work based on what I'm working on right now. So you might find me one day talking about backing that goal down. And like I said, I might throw in something different, like 1 more hour on the treadmill desk, just to make sure, I'm not losing progress, right? So I want you to sort of, it's a fine line, right? To be diligent with your goals, set ones you can achieve, set ones that might even be, a tiny bit of stretch, but you're pretty sure you can do them 99.99% of the time. But then the delicate balance with also backing off of certain ones that might not make sense anymore, because we're human, right? We're a holistic package, and everything we do in one day impacts the other things. And like I said, I'm not really ready to discount the fact that maybe it's harder to mentally focus while standing. Maybe somebody, honestly, some people can probably focus much better while standing. In fact, I know that for sure. Both my ex-husband and my son are pacers. When they're thinking and pontificating and talking about something that they're passionate about, they are all over the room. Every inch of the room, they can pace around and go circles in and step over things and whatever. I mean, I remember my son when he was little. It was so clumsy. He would run into anything. In a regular den where there's furniture arranged, plenty of walking space for everybody, that boy's running into the couch, And I don't know why, but that was what he did. His eyesight was fine. So I don't know why he was like that. However, strangely, when he was on some sort of tear about, talking about something that he was passionate about, at the grade, the age that you would have Thomas the Tank Engine tracks, all the Thomas the Tank Engine stuff would be on the floor. It would not be fully assembled yet. It would be, in pieces, parts everywhere. He could walk around and through and over all of that stuff while talking and not step on any and not trip on any. So I know that his brain, definitely both of them have Asperger's, definitely both of them have ADD. And so I know that his brain is switched into a different place, when he is going off on something he's passionate about, and I said going on a tear, going off on, these aren't even negative things. It's like when they're, just talking about something, I want to say soapbox, but that also sort of has somewhat of a negative connotation. Just anything they're passionate about, right? They just go, and they're like a train on a track, and they just go, and they're saying everything they're thinking. And they're both very intelligent, so they're saying things that are interesting, but yet they're walking through all these things, or my son was, but my ex was all over the room, and he still does that. And I think it's funny because, both, they're the same. I can see the hard wiring going on there. So I'm sure that some people function better standing, function better moving while they're thinking. I don't think that obviously isn't me. I think that I'm better seated with my things spread out in front of me so I can see it all, print it out, not even on a computer screen, like print it out for the big picture thinking, right? And so I know not everybody listening to this, has their own business or works from home, but you still have, you probably have a job or career that you work in. You may or may not have kids. You may or may not have a partner. You have a place you live that you're responsible for. You've got a whole life, right, with all these varied responsibilities, and things that you need to get done, pay attention to. At some point in our lives, things are shifting and changing. We've got to figure out how the lifestyle changes we're making in this program can fit in, right? And if we're looking at the long term, obviously, we're definitely going to face changes that come along that we've got to sort of shift and change. So, hold loosely to the things that you've committed to. Certainly make them challenging enough that they're going to make a difference in your progress, and do them consistently, but hold loosely to them and have no judgment attached to whether, you need to make a change with them or, drop some completely sometimes, and bring it back in later when you're more prepared for it, or your circumstances support it better, or like me, maybe downshift one and upshift the other. Like if I downshift the standing hours, I might upshift the walking hours. So I can guarantee you I'm not going to have perfection this month, because maybe as soon as today I'm going to stop doing the standing desk, and might add in that extra hour of walking on the treadmill desk, in the afternoon. In fact, I'm pretty sure I might do that. I keep saying might. Honestly, that's because if I remember, I might finish talking with you, finish off the rest of my treadmill time, go upstairs, put my smiley face on my daily chart for having completed the treadmill, and completely forget that I considered doing this today. I hope that's not the case. I hope that once I start working, I'm like, oh yeah, I wanted to do this. I know for sure on my list of things to do today at work, I have, that I'm working on vision and strategy. So maybe that will tick in my mind, oh yeah, need to sit at some point to work on that. We'll find out. Just going with the flow, So another thing I wanted to talk about today was the difference between achieving something and maintaining it. I know that, I'm not sure. I believe that on a different day, on a different I believe that on a different day in these sessions with you. I've talked about how when I was in really great shape, I was at the gym 7.5 hours a week, and that I had an idea that I was going to try to cut back to 4.5 hours a week, yet still maintain my fitness level. I'm not sure if I've mentioned that, but that was a thought. But unfortunately, that was 2008, and then my life was decimated by all the various things that happened. My divorce, the recession, my mom being diagnosed with her lung bacteria, that I was sort of the ringleader on figuring out what in the world it was and what the treatments were and where we needed to go to get a diagnosis and a proper treatment plan, etc. And having kids that were 4 and 6. So a lot happened in that 1 year, and things continue to happen, beyond that. Major life changes, the kinds of things that if you see the list, that's asking about stressors, and it's like, okay, how many of these have you experienced in the last year or whatever. I don't know what period of time they say. Like divorce, illness of yourself, illness of a family member, loss of a family member, loss of a job, and just listing the things. I'm like, check, 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 check. Like up until that time, I guess I'd been more blessed than I realized, and all of it came, in this same last decade. Just all poured in, thing after thing. And so I never got to check my theory on whether I could maintain my, the best fitness level I've ever been in, if I could maintain it by cutting back from 7.5 hours at the gym to 4.5. Because while I do enjoy working out, I don't want to live my life at the gym. I don't, that it takes away, even when I'm not in stressful circumstances, it takes away from fun time, leisure time. I don't really like being sweaty. I mean, I'm willing to get sweaty, and I do. When I was younger, I got sweaty from working out hard. In my more recent years, I get sweaty from doing anything because I'm already overheated many of the times before I even begin. So recent years, I'm dripping with sweat. So I don't, I do enjoy working out, but going to the gym, getting drenched in sweat, coming home and taking a shower takes a lot of time. And I would rather, even in my best times with none of these stressful things, I'd rather chill some of those times, So at that point, I was thinking, well, I bet I could cut back from 7.5 hours to 4.5. And what that would have looked like is I was doing an hour and a half at the gym, which was cardio, weights, and stretching. I was doing an hour and a half at the gym 5 days a week. So that's 7.5 hours. And so I was looking at, could I cut that back to 3 days a week? So still do my same 1.5 hours when I was there, but only go 3 days a week. So in that case, it was going to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I would do cardio, weights, and stretching. But like I said, I didn't get a chance to do it, but I'm pretty confident that it would have worked. And I came up yesterday, just randomly, with an analogy for what that looks like. So I came up with an analogy yesterday of what that looks like what the difference is between the effort and time you need to put in to achieve something, that's something new that you're working on versus maintain something. So in our case, if it's to achieve a better fitness level and then maintain it, if it's to achieve weight loss and then maintain it. I know that it's true, for anything that we are doing, like in my work. I know it's true that when I'm working on something, if I've done, certain parts that are foundational, once those pieces are done, I don't have to go back and revisit them. It's like building the foundation of a house, and then from that point forward, you can just keep building up, right? So in this case, I had a Diet Coke. It was in one of those plastic 16-ounce bottles that used to be 20 ounces, probably before the 2008 recession also. I'm not sure when they did that, but I do remember that during the recession, all the companies started making everything smaller, but keeping the shape so that you didn't perceive that it was anything different. But those 16-ounce bottles used to be 20-ounce bottles. I also remember companies like, and this still is today, there's an indentation. Let's say you have a big juice bottle, right? Or juice bottle, jug, I guess maybe is better. And it has a big indentation in the bottom, of it. I'm sorry, I got distracted because I was just thinking about this neighbor. This is indicative of what happens when you have too much free time, or not enough challenging your brain. She wrote a letter to Edie's Ice Cream because they kept the shape of their container, but they made it smaller, right? So it literally had less ice cream, like they were selling you, right, for the same price they used to sell you the bigger one, and they were just one. Like I said, I mean, I remember, that happening with fewer tampons in the box. I always buy the same pens, Uniball, Signio 207. Always buy the same pens, and I could tell they were running out faster, right? I mean, it was obvious to me. I'd used them for years, right? And so they just put less ink in it, right? So it's very common, that these things were happening. But my neighbor wrote this letter to Edie's Ice Cream complaining about it. I don't know whatever came of that, but it was happening all the time. Anyway, back to my story of my 16-ounce plastic bottle of Diet Coke. So it was halfway full, and I was getting ready to cook something for dinner, and so I put it in the freezer because I'd been sort of drinking on it throughout the day, and I was like, I'd like this to be colder, right? So I thought, I know, I'll put it in the freezer, and it won't explode because it's only halfway full, and things in freezers expand, right? But that'll be fine. So I laid it in the freezer and forgot about it. My thought was I would put it in there 20 minutes while I was making dinner, pull it out, and it would be colder than it was, and I'd be happy. So I totally forgot about it. So at bedtime, why did it go to the freezer? Oh, I had made some bolognese sauce for a dinner for my kids for next week when they're back with me. So I put the bolognese sauce in these meal prep containers, had left it out to cool, and then once it had cooled enough to go into the freezer without busting the glass, I snapped the lids on, put it in the freezer, and then saw that Diet Coke laying there. And so I was like, oops, I'm glad that didn't do anything that made a big mess, like explode. I don't think it would have because of, like I said, the volume, but whatever the case, I'm not a physicist. Anyway, pulled the Diet Coke out, put it in the fridge, went to bed. Got up the next morning, had a normal morning, went for my first Diet Coke at 11-ish. And so that was, I'd gone to bed around 9. So that was, 14 hours later. Open the fridge, see the half-drunk Diet Coke, and I'm like, well, I'll start with that one, of course, because we all know it loses fizz, and I'm not going to drink it if it doesn't have enough fizz, right? So I go for that one before I open a new one. And I pulled it out, and it was still mostly frozen. And I thought, that is so weird, isn't it? Like, you can have, like if I'd stuck that same Coke half-filled into the fridge, it would never have frozen, right? It's at a refrigerator temperature, and it's not going to ever freeze. I leave it in there forever. I think maybe if I left it in there and didn't open the door for a month, maybe it would think about freezing, but in general, it's not going to freeze at a refrigerator temperature, right? It takes putting in the freezer to freeze. Yet, it was able to stay more than halfway frozen. I mean, really, I'd say 70% frozen, just sitting in the fridge, because it had already reached the frozen state. So it went into the fridge at the frozen state, and the fridge temperature, which on its own couldn't have brought it to freezing, was able to maintain the frozen state, right? And so I thought, that's a great analogy. It was such a long story, you might not even see the analogy anymore. But the fact that, you can create a state of being, in this case, frozen Diet Coke. In the case I was talking about before, my fit, strong body, right? You can create a state, but then the conditions that you need to maintain that state are lesser than you needed to create that state. Now, with working out, I wouldn't have backed off of the intensity of what I was doing. I was going to back off of the hours, right? And so I might have even changed what I was doing. I wouldn't have extended the time I was staying there, because that's the point. I was going down to 4.5 hours, no matter what days that was spread over. Mine was just going to be spread over 3 days. But so I might have changed what I was doing in that 1.5 hours, but I would have been able to bring down the time and maintain the state that I had already achieved in terms of strength, flexibility, and balance, and endurance, And so and that could be true, right, of losing weight also. if our metabolisms are functioning properly, we don't need to maintain a weight loss caloric intake for the day in order to maintain our weight. Those are two different strategies, right? To achieve a loss and then to maintain. And so if you're like me, sort of on a longer term plan of achieving results, number one, because you're not going at it with 100% of your focus, whether yours is motivation or not. Mine is more time, restricted. That's the bigger piece of mine. But part of it's also motivation, but sort of the thing creating my time restrictions, the stressors are actually what's impacting my motivation too. Like with eating, I definitely am an emotional eater. So if I didn't have the stressors, it wouldn't be so hard for me to make changes to my eating. But whatever the case, my path is going to be longer. The progress is going to be slower. And that might be the case with a lot of people, that are listening right now too. And so what I have to do sometimes is just sort of, think about what pieces of this are going to be those foundational pieces that once I do them, I'm not going to have to do them again. Like there is, the achieving part, but then there is a point that I'm going to get to the maintenance part that's not going to take so much time, not going to take so much effort, right, to maintain. And so it's not, while my improvements are going to be lifelong, I don't have to think that this is going to have to be as much of a focus for me, a year from now as it is right now. And meal prep's a perfect example of that. I think that if I could through finding the recipes, buying the ingredients, experimenting with them, seeing which ones I can, seeing which ones I like, seeing which ones of those that I like that I can eat numerous times without getting bored of them, because it's more difficult to prepare several different types for a week than it is to choose just one or two types, make enough for every day of that week of those one or two types, right? And so if I could, experiment enough that I could find ones that I liked that I could do that with, eat 5 days in a row, which I have with my Mexican bowl. I think it's delicious. But that's the only one. I've got that, and I've got the salad, which ultimately I burned out on, that particular salad that I was making. But I would thought that if I can find 10, let's say, that are tried and true, that I like, I can eat repetitively for a week. If I could have 10, then I can just rotate through them. So I would pretty much, for months on end or maybe years, not get tired of them, right? Not years, but maybe a year, because I would be rotating through them. And so that's an example of a foundational thing that is taking effort and time up front, but isn't going to once I lay that track, It's like railroad tracks. Once I lay that track down, I'm not going to have to do that again, at least not for a year, right? And so, that's an example of how maintaining something is, takes less of you than achieving it in the first place. So sometimes I do have to sort of go through my head and think, okay, this thing, I know it's taking a lot of time now. It's creating stress because it's taking me away from other things that I need to be doing. However, once I get it done, that'll be a foundational block in my wall that I'm building. I'm not going to have to do that again, at least for a very long time. So I have to remind myself of the things I'm doing that I'm not going to have to repeat, for a very long time. And that makes me feel progress, because I think that's the most challenging part of a long-term journey or a long-term goal, whether it's a project. I was listening to a podcast this morning, where he's talking about this documentary that he made, and it took him 10 years, and that can feel like a slog. It wasn't the primary thing he was working on, but even so, once you're working on something for so long, you really can get bogged down to the point that you just get burned out enough that you just drop it all together, right? And I don't plan to do that for this, for getting back in shape. But I can see how, a long-term thing, whether it's a work project or a personal development project, that you're working on can, make you feel burned out at some point and just lose your steam, basically. So if you're on a long-term plan and you ever do feel that, just wanted to mention that one of the methods that I've used that might work also for you is to look at the things that you're working on currently that once done, they'll be done, right? At least for a very long time, and you can not worry about that again. Sort of like if you at home have a long to-do list of just various things that you need to do around the house. And let's say, like at my mom's house, I had to replace her back door because she had the same back door from 1966 when the house was first built to whatever year I replaced that, 2016, I can't remember, and it no longer locked and, didn't have storm. I mean, she had a storm door, but I don't know, it's just the door was not functional. It was very, lightweight, didn't lock, whatever. So, but if that's on my to-do list, once I have done that, it's totally gone. I'm not going to have to replace that door again for years. Now, in our case, we ended up selling the house, so that didn't matter. But right, once you replace the door, you're not going to have to do that for years. And you shouldn't, because they're surprisingly expensive. I was really stunned. I'd never purchased a door for a home. In any case, that's an example of also, things that you can do that you can, once done, set aside, they're off the table. And if you're in the midst of it, it can feel overwhelming. So for me even, the meal prep thing is one of those things. I mean, most people would say, oh, that's fun. You can sit down, you can look at recipes. In my case, I've been collecting them for a long time, on article links and, bookmarked in my browser, on a Pinterest board. I mean, I've got all the stuff I could just go through and choose from, but it's time consuming. I've collected a lot because I didn't have time to look at them at the time. So I have a lot to go through, and, it's just one more thing that takes time that then, has a pressure on it. I think it would be loads of fun if I didn't have time pressures, but that's not the case right now. So everything I put my time towards, there's a pressure, that I'm feeling of the other things. It's like everything else in my life is back there screaming, we need you, But in any case, so for me, meal prep is one of those things that, I keep reminding myself, okay, dedicate the time to it, because once you do it, it can start serving you from day one, and then increasingly will continue serving you even after, all the time has been put in to refine and create your perfect 10. Oh, perfect 10, I like that as a name for a collection of meal prep recipes. In any case, another rambling one. I'm sorry, it just, sometimes I'm all over the place. Hopefully other people are that way too, so they don't think I'm totally crazy. But in any case, I hope some of what I've talked today with you about will serve you well and will help you both stay on track, but then also not shame or criticize or judge yourself if you don't stay on track, right? It's a never-ending improvement process. We're always working, towards making it better and optimizing it. So I hope that you have a good rest of your day. I hope that you have an amazing night's sleep. Wake up tomorrow feeling refreshed and rested and ready to start a new day. And I'm going to talk with you then. Take care. Bye-bye.